trying to explain away my alcoholism helped me back in my alcoholism, I think.
That was Vikki Rood of Awkward and Awesome Coaching. Hi, I'm MartinJon, and you're listening to the Recover Yourself podcast. There is something about those of us in long-term recovery who, although we are moving forward, we're not in this constant battle of being or getting better. Sure, I'm always wanting to engage awareness, but I've come to terms with the fact that I am perfect where I am and moving forward naturally. Now, that's a fine line, and each of us must know for ourselves how to walk it. Vikki talks about how during her early days in recovery, her first 5 years or so, she was using several things to avoid real issues, especially lying and hiding. Today, she continues to tackle those things that take her away from herself. And this is being done not to be better because she feels like she isn't enough, but it's about how wonderfully easy life can be when we are clear and living honestly. So this is not about being better, but about being clear, open, here and now, as much as we can at the moment. This is also another giveaway episode in which we're giving away a Gimme 5 sampler of ArKay Alcohol-Free drinks. And so stick around to the end or check out the description to get more information about that. Vikki, thank you so much for joining me. Man, I'm really excited to get into this because you have clarity and you're pushing yourself all the time. And since we've met, and we met on your podcast, Telling on Ourselves, of course, but since we've met, like, your ability to be vulnerable and your ability to just kind of show up honestly has been impeccable, and I'm really excited to be able to have you on the show.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's been really fun getting to know you and spitball all of this recovery talk with you.
Absolutely. So how much time do you have?
So my sobriety date is May 25th, 2010. So 9.5 years-ish.
What kind of caused that?
Well, I originally tried to get sober May 1st.
Okay.
And it was just out of brokenness. Okay. But then I did the marijuana maintenance for a while, and then I finally got real, and I went to a psychiatrist, and she prescribed an IOP, and I learned about a lot more, and then I was able to kick all of it. So
nice. So
far I haven't picked up since.
Okay. Well, yeah. And you know, one of the interesting things about our style of recovery, or recovery from anything really, is that we are successful until we're not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So far, so good. That's what I say.
Yeah.
Today,
you know, people are like, oh, you know, like, congratulations on 19 years. And it's just like, yep. Although it's not in the forefront of my mind every day, still, I have to be aware of my other addictions and, like, the whole of everything. So in terms of that, like, what are some things that, like, you still deal with?
Well, I definitely do therapeutic shopping. Not right now, but I've been known to shop a little bit. And I justify bargain shopping, but it still adds up.
Right, yeah.
But that immediate gratification, I don't like Amazon shopping at all. I'm not a big fan. Oh, really? I like to touch, feel, and the thrill of the buy and bringing it home. You know, that's definitely it was a pretty intense addiction that I've been forced to amend.
Yeah, I listened. So again, I listened to your podcast today. And it was a Christmas, you know, overarching theme of Christmas, and you're saying that, like, financially you're more strapped now than you've ever been, and yeah. So, like, Christmas is definitely taking a hit for that, like, in terms of gifts and other stuff. But
I'm happy. I'm happy, and that's the weirdest thing. I never thought in a million years I would be. It's so much easier. I am not stressed out. I am not even a little bit stressed out about Christmas this year.
Yeah, I mean, with the holidays coming up, and you have kids, and you have family, and you have other things that, like, that are still, like, living an active addiction, and what are you doing to kind of prepare yourself for that? How are you staying happy for that? And, like, how is this all kind of, like,
that's
playing out for you?
Yeah, that's a good question, because it's definitely been challenging. I just try to show up and be as real as I can when I'm there, but also disengage a little bit, because when I engage, those old cycles they can come back so quickly. And Thanksgiving went good, but it was, when I'm at home, those triggers probably come more so than on a normal day, right?
Yeah.
In my home of origin, and because it's a crazy dynamic. There's a big family, and active addiction is happening, and it's none of my business.
Right.
It really isn't. That my recovery is the only thing I need to take care of. And it's funny, I tell my kids, when I say it's time to go, it's time to go. Like when I need to leave, I need to leave. And I'm very clear about that, because when I see myself spinning and spinning, that's not how. I don't choose to live my life that way anymore. And nobody's doing it to me. Right. I'm doing it to myself, right? So yeah. But it's boundary setting, and I'm doing Christmas Eve at my house, and then Christmas Day, I'm gonna go late and leave early, stop in, pop in. But it has to be, well, I have to talk to my people. I have to talk to my tribe. I have to talk it out before I go. I have to talk it out after I go. I mean, these simple little things that I did at the beginning, I still do when it gets intense, right?
Right.
And then just making sure I have my time for me, my time sitting and being quiet, or drinking my coffee, or cuddling with my dog, or those things that fill me up, right, with the kids or whatever. Because when I'm full and I'm grateful and I'm in that right frame of mind, it's hard for me to get into that spin. But when I'm not full, when I'm empty, when I'm hungry, when I'm all those things, then that's my automatic gear. It's like, that's my neutral.
Right. Yeah.
My neutral is to be a little bit high strung. So I do have to work at not being that way.
So, I'm not a huge believer of like, keep yourself safe and only think positive things, and like put your, only live on the side of a mountain somewhere where you cannot be triggered. I'm a big believer that like negative, like a lot of the people in the wellness community say like low vibration or whatever, low vibration thoughts, or like negative things and whatever. Like those things are there to teach us, and hiding from those things definitely like can stagnate our growth. How do you utilize, like, when you notice you're high strung? I understand, like, you reach out, you bookend your events, like the things that you got to do is so you can like talk to your folks and talk, not folks, but talk to your people. Yeah. But how do you then process that to learn about yourself and to learn to strengthen for the next time?
Yeah, because that is important. I don't lie about it. If I'm feeling a certain way, I know that I have to go through it, and I talk about it. Talking is my processing. That's how I process. And I do some journaling. I have to force myself a little bit to journal, but I like to talk things through. That's my way through. I usually come to it once I'm talking about it, or I realize I can talk enough into realizing, oh yeah, here's where the real problem is, and they say go full circle, and it usually is full circle. It's usually always about me, some way that I'm offended, some way I think somebody else thinks, which is usually made up in my own brain.
That's about you, like,
yeah, right.
Because you're the one thinking they're thinking something about you, like it's all
crazy. Yeah. And it's so loud. It can get so loud, and I think that's what I notice now. I think the biggest part of it, of not staying stuck in it, is actually noticing it when it's happened. Like, instead of just being in neutral and letting it happen and responding to everything that happens in life from that place, I can be like, let's just say yesterday, I had a horrible day. I started off driving my kid to school at 7:30. He was a miserable teenager that did not want to go. He didn't want to talk to me. He was a mess the whole time while he's sitting there. I'm like, this is not about me. This is not about me. This is not about me. And I dropped him off and I told him I loved him. And he came home from school and it was okay. And I didn't perseverate about it all day. But I'll tell you what, if I was in my neutral mode, I would have, right? But I was able to talk myself through it, even internally, I guess.
You understood yourself as a certain kind of person when you went into sobriety. What are some things that were really obvious that changed over the years from that time?
Well, first thing is I was a liar, and I thought I was the most honest person there ever was. Like the denial of my lying was tremendous. I remember there was one time I was sitting there and I'm like, everything I do is a lie. Every single thing I did was a lie so that I could get what I wanted to get, whether it was my substance of choice or not. I would manipulate the people in my life like they were chess pieces. If I didn't want this person to be around that person, because they knew what I did the night before and I lied to that person the night before. So I realized very quickly that I was a liar. And that was a hard one. That was hard because I truly thought I was the most honest, hardworking gal and I was doing my best and, blah, blah, blah. But I had to face the facts that I was pretty cunning. I was pretty much just manipulating everything and everyone.
Can you talk me through that? Talk me through how that felt, what you had to face when that came into your awareness?
Well, I felt shame for sure. I felt very ashamed of myself. I felt like, who the heck am I? I mean, really, I was like, well, then who am I? Because this is what I've become. I mean, that was so much like, okay, so the manipulating others I thought was a badge of honor, but I didn't call it manipulating others. I called
it sales. No.
I called it helping others. I called it like, oh, I'm just doing this person a favor so that, I'm making everything cool for them. But really, everything I was doing was motivated by making it comfortable for me. And so I didn't think of it as manipulating, but it really was. I found out in recovery that almost everything I did was so that I can be comfortable and so that everything would work out so no one would find out my secret.
That's interesting you say that because I've been struggling over the last year or two with this idea of sales and this idea of how do I position myself in the market? How do I do all these things? And it's real, for me, that's been really difficult because I'm a saver, not an earner in my mind, right? And so there are these different ways of looking at myself and whatnot. And earning historically for me is dirty. Right? It means I'm not connecting with people. I'm not doing all these things, but nothing is good or bad. You need balance in it all. And when you look at yourself and you have this, I'm a liar, okay, that's great. Now let's move forward with honesty.
Yeah. Right.
And understand that this back here is not me being bad. It's me learning something that I needed to learn. And now I'm moving here doing this. And it's not about only being honest. It's about being honest with yourself and being open and present and being okay, this is what I said, but it came from a natural place. And I don't have any shame about it. If you were found out about your lying, you would have shame.
Oh yeah. But that exactly what you said, that process of becoming honest. I mean, and it took me some time to become honest. And I mean, honest where I could say I've been pretty esteemable in that area. But at the beginning, it was definitely a work in progress. But I'll tell you, so as I became more and more honest, I realized how much harder I was making my life by creating all these stories, all these lies.
Right.
And it's so much easier. I'm like, wow, it's easier to tell the truth. It's easier to say that even if it hurts their feelings.
Yeah. Because then you don't have to say it again and again and again and again because they don't feel like it's true.
Right.
Because it's not, but people aren't just energetically intuitive to be able to just be okay, you're lying. Let's just get past that. When I get that feeling, I'm like, do we really want to go through this? I just open up and I'm like, do you really want to say that? Because I mean, we could play that game, but I don't have the energy for it.
Well, right. And that's what happens when you start being more honest, and you can see it more.
Right. This is all about like moving us towards more self-awareness and like, oh, who am I? What is going on in my body? What are these subtle little things that are happening? What were some things that happened where you just kind of took note of like, oh my God, I am a completely different person?
Oh gosh. I mean, I would say I saw it first in my work. I was doing sales and it wasn't as hard, but I saw some results coming because I was actually probably doing more of the work, right? But I started to notice it after day by day by being more disciplined. I really learned how to be more disciplined because I was being more disciplined with everyday things in my life, in the morning, waking up, not being hungover, all these things, right? And so it spilled over into my job. And I sat there one day and I noticed, and I had all these meetings and I had all these new clients, and I was like, holy cow, this is just a result of being more disciplined every single day. And when I noticed that, then it got even better because I was like, whoa, if I could do this consistently, you get more strength, more muscles to do those things because you see the results of the good action equals results, right? We don't want to say good or bad, but I saw that putting that action in really did, I didn't have to be the victim that didn't get meetings, that was like, oh, I suck at my job, and, saying all these negative things to myself and then just having to drink and smoke my way through it. And there was evidence of doing the action and then results came.
Yeah. I know there was one time I was in a group of friends of mine and I had talked about a glass of water, something that was on the bar, and I said, "Oh, no, that's not mine because that's half full." And he was like, "You just expressed this as half full," and that was something for me that like was like, whoa, and it really took hold in terms of like, you are a completely different person.
Yeah. I think one of my aha moments like that was when I was gossiping and I had a negative aversion to it, like naturally in my body. I just didn't feel okay. I was talking and we were joking around and just being really rude about somebody else. And I did that kind of stuff a lot and thought it was just okay. You weren't hurting anybody if they didn't know. But I really started to feel it in my body, like, this does not feel right. This is not okay. I had to make amends went and made amends with the person that I was gossiping. And I said, I really can't, I'm sorry, but I can't do this anymore. And then to even notice that I was doing that, I think. Right. But once I did, I noticed that in my body. Like, I felt that in my body.
Wow. There was another story comes to mind. I don't indiscriminately kill bugs in my house anymore. And it is not, and it doesn't have anything to do with me being like, oh, the poor bug. It's just, oh, no, like, let's, and there was a time that I would have, made fun of or chastised someone for having like gone to that extreme. But I never made the choice to do that. I just kind of like found myself doing it one day.
I swear to you, I did the exact same thing. I don't kill spiders anymore. My daughter goes crazy about spiders. I'm like, just let it be. It's not going to bother you. I promise. You'll never notice it. Yeah. And it's weird. I don't know.
Yeah. And it's just, and it's so interesting how, and this is why I believe that when we heal ourselves, we will heal the world, because I have no intention of saving insects. Right. Yet it is just happening because I love myself. So then I can offer that same love to the insects and everything else.
Yeah, that's really cool. I never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So what are some things what are some things, harmful or not, that you find yourself kind of pacifying with, checking out with, or
I quit smoking in recovery. Took me 3 years, but I quit. I smoked like a chimney, and I finally quit. It was Christmas Eve. My uncle said something to me because I thought I was doing so great because I cut down on smoking. I was only doing like a couple, 3, 4, 5 a day. But he's like, Vikki, it doesn't matter if you smoke one or if you smoke the whole pack. You're still doing just as much damage to your body. And I was like, it was like the lights went on, and I just stopped. And I had to use the same principles I used to quit. Like I had to ask for help with that because I physically wanted to. And even now, sometimes I'll smell somebody smoking, and even though it's gross, and it's usually when I'm in a bad place, I'm like, oh, that cigarette. Oh, that cigarette. I pine after it every once in a blue moon. But when I do, I'm like, okay, what's going on here? That's an indicator of something's going on here, that I'm wanting a cigarette, because that does give me a tiny, tiny bit of release.
Yeah. What are some of the most important parts of your recovery today? And again, I talk about this idea of recovering to yourself and recovering towards something. And so like what are some challenges that you're enjoying that are challenges?
Well, I'm enjoying that I can actually notice that something's a challenge and not run away from it and kind of sit in it. Yeah. And I guess it is the confidence and the ability to really identify who I am and what I like. And I know that could change and flow, but before I couldn't. I was always waiting for someone else to make a decision, and then I would do what I thought that person wanted me to do. And now I just am, I say what I think, I say what I want to eat, I say, I'm kind most of the time. I try to be, but I'm not so afraid to be me. I'm way more comfortable in my own skin, and it's been work. But I'll tell you, one of the tools that I love so much is, and everybody talks about it, but it's that gratitude piece, especially in what I'm going through right now, because I really do have to look at what I'm grateful for, because those things that I had and that security that I had before is gone. So now I really do get to notice what I do have and be grateful for it.
Yeah.
And I really am. And I think that's what helps me and heals me when I'm feeling bad. And that's something that I've heard for a long time. And I used to say I was grateful, but now I feel grateful. Right. Now I feel grateful. It's like that whole thing going from the head to the heart. I feel like I'm finally in this phase of where it actually is, oh, wow, I have a warm house because my furnace works, and these little things. And even just being able to appreciate my pillow, or being able to appreciate, the water. Like I can drink water out of my faucet, and I'm really looking for that. And just those little baby things that I took for granted, because I was so out of touch. Even in recovery, I was just so focused on not drinking for a while, right? You're just so focused on, okay, don't drink. Whatever else you do is okay.
5 years of just like, I got to put it down. And there's no real talk about what next. Right. Just keep doing the steps. And it's like, well, I there's got to be something more. And that's what, that's what I want to, like, that's the conversation I want to have. Right. What are you building?
What are you building? And I think it's been, my friend went to this therapist one time, and she said she was building a new Frankenstein of herself, and she got to pick all these things that she always wanted to be, but she never could. And I loved that. I'm like, yeah, we get to discover who we are, and we get to be it, because we're not always in this place of trying to get away with, because I'm not trying to get away with something or trying to like get from somebody. Now I'm like, yeah, I could, if I want to be a roller skater today, then I can be a roller skater today. I mean, it doesn't matter. I can do stuff because I'm not drinking, but also because I like myself. I mean, I think coming to that point of liking myself has been the biggest victory. And do I like myself every single day? Obviously not. We all have these crazy voices that tell us that, try to ego us down, but I'm comfortable in my own skin, and I wouldn't I wouldn't be without this program of recovery or doing the work that I've done. And I think I just still like to do the work, right? I still like to, like you said, notice the triggers, what's going on with me, notice when something's uncomfortable. Because when I know something's uncomfortable, I know that something needs to change so that I can get to a better place. It's like my shirt doesn't fit anymore or something of that nature. I've grown out of it or something. I don't know how to describe it the right way, but it's really when I get itchy or when I get uncomfortable, I don't always get excited, but after I realize that I'm uncomfortable, because sometimes I'll be uncomfortable and I won't even realize it.
Right.
And then once I realize it and I'm aware of, ooh, this doesn't feel good, or this feels annoying, or whatever it is, I find myself justifying old behaviors, any of that kind of stuff. Then I get this opportunity to be like, well, what is going on with that? And if it's nothing, sometimes it's nothing. Sometimes there's nothing wrong. Sometimes it's just a bad day.
How long did it take you to start thinking in this way?
Yeah, that's the good question, right? I mean, it probably took me a good 5-6 years to really get to this place where I owned my air, owned my, where I am. I owned my space, to be honest.
I want to talk a little bit about telling on ourselves. How did that start? What is the impetus behind it? What drives you to do it? What are you passionate about it?
So I fell in love with podcasts because I'm a firstborn. I learned the other day from a friend, because I like to learn, and I fell in love with podcasts. And my podcast selections are true crime or spiritual / personal development stuff. That's it. So I'm either learning about all the things that I can improve or I suck at, or I'm hearing about murderers and I know I'll never be a murderer, so I'm always better than a murderer, right? No. So I was fascinated with My Favorite Murder. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's a true crime podcast, and I love these two girls, and they're friendly and they talk and they discuss murder, and they're funny. And Bree and I were friends, and I said, I want to do a podcast. I'm like, I love podcasts. I want to do a podcast. Okay. So we recorded one on my computer, and it was terrible and it was fun, and we laughed our butts off, and it was great. And then I think that was around Christmas time. So then in February, we were at a retreat, and I sat down next to Lynn, and I said something to the effect of talking about a podcast. And I said, yeah, me and my friend Bree are doing a podcast. And she's like, I'm in. And she didn't even know what it was about. And I mean, she was obviously in recovery because it was a recovery retreat. But we all sat down and we started recording. We got one microphone on Amazon for $50. We all sat around my computer and we started recording for about a year. We recorded a whole bunch of episodes, and they were terrible but fun, and there were good moments and whatever. And finally we said, okay, we have to do this. And we decided to do it. And it's been, I think, for my recovery, doing this whole thing has helped me so much, because we're not just talking about the program that where I usually sit, right? I'm very much in go to meetings, do all that stuff, right? But this has opened up so much more in terms of everyday living in recovery and making it, I don't know. I want to help other people realize that you can do it and you can still be fun. You can still be okay. You can be mad. You can be happy. You can have a life when you're in recovery. And when you're not in recovery, you can use some of these things too. Like a lot of people that talk to us on the podcast are actually not even in recovery. They just like what we have to say about, whatever, the 4 agreements when we did that or whatnot. Right. But it's been so great bonding with these two women, and we're also different, right? We all have different time. We all have different space in life, parents, not parents, but it's just a beautiful connection. And I think that it comes from a true place, and we don't lie. Like there's sometimes we get into it on the show, right? Like sometimes I disagree and I say, no, that's not, and they say, no, Vic. And we can talk things out, the processor and me, the talking processor,
Right.
but it's like, how can we help other people that are suffering with this, that don't have the resources that we have, I guess.
And in terms of like disagreeing, do you trump with time?
I don't think so, but
Okay.
when we're talking, I don't see that. Like, I don't look at the time.
Yeah. And I'm only asking to, like, just be like, hey, where is this? Where is this? Like, are we peers? And as we should be. Now, like, to be honest, like, I talk to people with a specific amount of time, not exclusively, but I do kind of demarcate long-term recovery only because it is a hard topic to talk about, like, where are you at now if you are just trying to not drink, like, so like,
because that's not what it's about, right?
It's not. Yeah. Like, it's never about that. Yeah.
Thank God it's not about that.
Right.
Like, thank God I learned how to live a fulfilling life. Well, I was going to say, when I came in, I just thought I was stuck being a crabby, miserable, uncomfortable. Like, that's just who I thought I was. I thought, oh, that's in my DNA. That's who I am. Right. I had no idea that was actually perpetuating problems from earlier in life, or that time in life, and then putting depressants in my body all day, every day. So like, when I came out of that fog, and then then I had to deal with life, right? Deal with all the stuff that I did. But then when I got to this point where I actually could find some like genuine inside happiness, I was like, this is so cool. This is actually real. Like, they're not bullshitting me, like, this is actually real. Yeah.
And it's a tough thing. Like, so when you started recovery, what were some things that you thought would never change that actually, like, could have never stayed the same?
I mean,
besides everything.
Yeah. Right. The wheeling and dealing, with life, right? Like, I thought everything was a transaction and everything had strings attached and everything. I had so many misconceptions about why people did what they did. And it's probably because why I did what I did, I'm sure. But I think the ability to not let all that stuff in and change who I am because of everybody else's stuff. I think, thank God, because I was a people pleaser to a fault. And, one of the things I work on is not, as much as I love helping people, because that's my business, I also have to only help people in a healthy way. I have to be very clear on that, because I think that can be part of my addiction too, helping and not looking at myself and helping everybody else, right? And in fact, I think that kept me drunk for a long time. It kept me drunk because I judged myself against other people, and I'm not as bad as her. I don't throw up every day, or I would judge myself. So I think that when I see myself going into somebody else's life, I'm like, I just have to double check. Is my stuff here okay? Because I'm helping this person. Why am I doing what I'm doing? And like with the lying thing, I quickly had to look at that, and I've been looking at that, and then just really noticing in my body. I remember my therapist told me when I was out there before I got in recovery, she's like, notice in your body what happens when you feel stressed. And I was just like, whatever. And I never did. But now, I mean, that is number one. I feel this tension here. What's going on? And it's noticing your whole self and what I'm doing, and then trying to.
And I think it's important for therapists to understand that when you're in active addiction, your body does not feel.
Yeah. That's the point, right?
Like saying that to someone in active addiction is really, like, I don't want to go as far to say irresponsible, but it is this point of like, you do know this, right? Like,
well, she didn't know I was doing as much as I was doing. In her defense.
Okay, I have to say, I don't give a fuck what you tell her. She should know that shit. Like, right? Like,
I know. I'm not that good of a liar. Although, do you know the game Balderdash? Have you ever played Balderdash?
I've heard of it. It's a definition game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's basically whoever's the best liar wins. And I've always won. Family parties, we played it all the time. I always won.
Wow.
And there was the first time in recovery about 3 years ago, we played the game together. I didn't even get on the board. I was like in last place. I played with a whole bunch of other alcoholics, and I'm like, I'm not the best liar in the room anymore. That's a good thing.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
I love the hope of a new life. You know, I really do. I love the hope that I have today, as long as I stay right, as long as I stay within the safe zone and not hide, right? Not hide from life.
Yeah.
That hope that things can actually be better and comfortable, and not all the time.
No, challenges are difficult.
Yeah, but to be able to handle those challenges without flying off the handle or without reacting like a crazy person, because that is a new thing. That's a new thing in recovery, and I think my kids are grateful for it. I know I'm grateful for it. I know my jobs go way better when you try this new way of living and you actually are doing the work to heal yourself, because that's what it's about. It's about healing.
Oh, Vikki, thank you so much for joining me.
Well, definitely. Thank you so much. What a fun time.
Yeah, good. I'm glad that you enjoyed it.
I want to thank Vikki for her time, and I encourage each of you to check out the podcast she does with 2 other wonderful women, Telling on Ourselves. I was on an episode a few weeks ago, and we had a great time talking about the difference between recovering to and recovering from. Check out the description below to find all the links to everything that Vikki is doing in the description, and to enter the giveaway contest of an ArKay Gimme 5 sampler. Recovering yourself is not just about addiction. I'm talking about recovering you. I want to help people recover that which they have been conceived to be. Our whole lives are riddled with pleasing others and being what others want us to be. We go around blaming society, circumstances, anyone who might fit the bill. But we are no victims. And when we can recover ourselves completely, we will walk on this earth as the gods we were conceived to be. We all have it in us to not be controlled by fear, old stories, and what we learned through trauma. And as we enter 2020, I want to extend a special thank you to all of those looking within themselves for the answers to healing that physical world that they are experiencing. It's not easy, but you are helping in more ways than you can imagine. Consider heading over to Anchor and supporting this podcast. And I would also love to hear from you. Comments, criticisms, suggestions, all of those are welcome. And if you're someone in long-term recovery and want to have a conversation about what that looks like, let me know, because I'm always on the lookout for new guests. Thanks again for listening to the Recover Yourself podcast. And until next week, keep recovering yourself.